Hey everybody, my name is Kelly Mena and I am an executive producer and creative director over at NanLite. I do a lot of the NanLite tutorials that you see on the YouTube channel and our other social media channels. I find myself at home now with very limited space and a limited crew. And by limited crew, I mean I have me. And I'm realizing that there are a lot of people at home right now in a very similar situation. And we wanted to basically make a video that could help professionals, whether you're a teacher or you're doing live streams and conference calls now, or you're a broadcaster that's also used to having a crew. And now you find yourself telling the news and keeping us all up to date in your home on your computer or your iPhone. The very simple way to make something like that look better is by having continuous light that you can kind of control. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump into some tips that we're hoping will be helpful to everybody. So in terms of backgrounds, the biggest thing to keep in mind is to really make sure you're not right up against a wall. If you're right up against a wall, it feels very claustrophobic. It feels very like there's no depth in the actual shot that you're trying to create. So the first thing I did was make sure to back away from the wall that I was shooting towards. So I'm like a good, I would say, at least 5 or 6 feet away from the wall. And I also made sure that it was clean behind me. I just wanted to make sure that things were neat, not too boring, but also not distracting. Another very simple thing to consider with your backdrop is where you fall into that backdrop. So I'm kind of framed around with the things that I've chosen to have behind me. I have a mark right now letting me know where I should stand. And that's very common in film, but it's just also very helpful. So I'm also my own crew. So, I'm moving things in the background, I'm adjusting the camera, I am finessing lighting. It can be really hard to land right exactly where you were before. So make sure you have a little bit of a mark, and that could just be some tape that you put on the ground. That could be a pen. But just indicate where it was that you were intending to stand. Another thing you're gonna wanna consider, again, even if you're just using your iPhone, is camera angle. So I very purposely made sure that my camera, my iPhone, is a little bit higher up and pointing down at me, as opposed to the general way that you see people using their phone, which is right here looking up at you. If you're able to prop up the camera at a higher angle, at least eye line, and if a little bit higher, that would be great too, because it really kind of is just more flattering to your face. Sound is extremely important. I am not an audio engineer, but as somebody who creates video content, I am very aware of how important sound is. So I'm gonna have my sound rant at the end of the video, but mostly I'm gonna focus on good lighting. It's just so important. Look at this, watch that. Do you see this? That's a completely different experience, and that's one light. Right now, I'm lighting myself with a halo ring light that NanLite has, the 16C. And the reason that I like it is it's more versatile. Like, I can have daylight or I can have tungsten, which daylight obviously is to match whatever I might have going on outside. And then tungsten is more for maybe your indoor lights, more orangey kind of lighting. And depending on what you want to match, you have the option of doing that with this. A ring light is also really nice because it's kind of full coverage. It's a nice beauty light. A lot of makeup artists use it. We're actually doing a video with my good friend Jess, who's a makeup artist. She's thinking about maybe vlogging about it or doing other things with it. And so we did a cool tutorial about why lighting matters for makeup, and then also how you can kind of light yourself at home, very similar to this. So look out for that one. Another really nice aspect of the halo light is it gives you this ring light in your eyes. So you have a nice catch light in your eyes that adds another element. And I am cheating a little bit in this one light setup because I actually have a little kicker light over here. I'm using the Litolite 10 FB. Basically, a kicker light or a rim light is a light that from the background lights your hair or the back of your head to kind of separate you from the background a little bit. So there are a lot of different ways to do a simple setup like this. Again, I chose to use the halo light because it's really easy to use and it has a lot of variation with this particular one. But I also could have used some Lumi pads or some mix pads that NanLite has that are basically more like panel lights, and they're not ring light shaped, more of a rectangular square. I may play some footage of my friend Ben looking real cool in our product video. Basically, you could use those lights as a key light, or the mini pad or the mix pad as a kicker as well, instead of the Litolite. So I'm gonna switch from my iPhone and my Halo 16C to my GH5 and the Forza series. In this setup, I wanted to take it a little bit further and make it a little bit more interview-like or just general talking head type stuff. This is a little bit more for either someone who's trying to do a professional vlog or trying to, within the limited space that they have, create a roll so that they can actually potentially share it or broadcast it in a professional way. So for this setup, the 4 lights that I have are the Forza 300 with a softbox as my key light, the Forza 60 with some black wrap on it, and the reflector as my hair light. And then the background lights are the Pavo tube set at a blue, hitting the back of the wall, just giving it a little bit of something different. And then I have a little bit of an accent light on the tree behind me, the little planted tree that I have. So unlike the halo light, which was circular and it went around my camera before and it was an even light, there wasn't any shadows happening. I purposely took this light and created a soft light source, but put it at an angle to my face. And put it a little bit higher up and pointing down. So as opposed to it being right in front of me and filling my entire face and leaving it without any shadows, it actually creates a little bit more contrast and a little bit more depth, a little bit more interest with that. And so it creates a little bit of shadow on this side of my face. And I didn't want it to be too dark on this side of my face, so I actually took cardboard whiteboard that I got at a dollar store, so very easy, and put it off to the side to just kind of soften the shadows on this side. So this is kind of acting as my fill light, as a very, very delicate fill light. And I just attached it to a bookshelf that I had. Because even though I do have gear, I still have to MacGyver on sets, and I still have to make do with what it is that I have. Since I'm using the Forza 300, I decided to use the smaller Forza, the Forza 60, and use that as my backlight. And so I just put the reflector on it, and I actually put a little bit of black wrap on it, just to make it even more directional and pointed at the back of my head, as opposed to, spilling onto the side of my face and things like that. I just wanted it as a hair light. So for the background, I, again, made sure that I wasn't directly up against the background. I'm a good 5-6 feet away from the background. Again, I'm actually even shooting into a corner to kind of lengthen the background a little bit more and to add a little bit more depth. And then I decided to throw some color back there, and I grabbed one of the Pavo tubes that I have, which is 4 feet, and I made it a blue color. It has tungsten and daylight and all sorts of stuff, but it also has RGB, so I'm able to pick whatever color I want. And I decided to basically go with just like a blue background, just to kind of make it a little bit different and again, add a little bit of depth. And with the plant that I have back there, I also put just a little bit of an accent light that's hitting a little bit of the curtain and a little bit of the plant that I have. And also, by the way, very thankful for this little guy, this remote control. When you're shooting yourself at home and you don't have any help, it's really helpful to be able to adjust lighting while you're in your seat, especially if you are pretty much your entire crew. So I'm just gonna take 20 seconds to talk about audio. I always record externally from my DSLR because the sound that comes from DSLR isn't the best, and being a filmmaker, I'd much rather just have as professional sound as I possibly can. So I use my Tascam and I record with a wireless lav mic. So for instance, right now I'm using a Saramonic UW Mic 15 and I'm just recording that externally to my Tascam. And I'll sync it later with my DSLR. So I also have a Saramonic V-Mic Mini on top of my DSLR. So the reason I have that is maybe your primary audio isn't the best, and so you have to have a backup audio, or at the very least, you want to make sure that your audio is clean enough that it can sync properly later. So that's just stuff that you definitely want to take into consideration if you really are thinking about elevating your video game. We hope that this was helpful. If you guys have any other questions, please let us know in the comments below. If you haven't caught the videos we've been doing already, please check out our videos on green screen and the mimicking light and paintings video and our key light video with my friend Dave. So please check those out, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.